Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and it's the 309th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you will see that this is not the normal flat featureless map. This battle was fought on the Pripyat Marshes map. I like this map because you've got woods and you've got big plains area there. This is a midweek bonus battle that I thought I'd put on, and I hope you enjoy it. I like putting on the midweek bonus battles. I think it's always a little bit different from the just a normal Saturday morning. Okay, the first teammate is Brotherhood member Cal, who has bought the Rome Brutio faction. And as you can see there, the most of his army are hidden in the woods. So it'd be interesting to have a look at his army maybe a bit later on when we can actually see them. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has bought the Rome Julio faction. Once again, most of his army will be hiding in the woods there. And our third teammate is Spartan Commander, who has unusually bought an old Britannia army. As you can see here, my old Britannia army here. Let's have a close look at it. As you can see, I've got the Chosen Swordsmen. Now these are the elite infantry of the Britannia faction. Pretty good. When you've got good upgrades on them, they can be pretty good troops. And I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including the general, I think I've got 9 units of the Chosen Swordsman. And then we move on to the head hurlers. Now these head hurlers throw effective against armor heads, and these heads also spread fear in enemy troops, lowering their morale. The real head hurlers used to dip their heads in lime, so even if the heads touch the skin of the enemy, it would cause terrible burns. And if you see, I've only got 5 units of them. If you notice that most modern Britannia armies have got usually maybe a whole army of head hurlers, about 12 of them, say, and about 6 well-upped chariots. But this is a more balanced old army. Okay, and then we move on to the scythed chariots here. If you notice, you can see the size on the wheels there, and you've got 1 driver and of course a swordsman within the chariot. And I think pound for pound, these chariots are probably the best chariots in the game. They don't run amok, which is a massive bonus. So there's my old balanced Britannia army. It'd be interesting to see how well it does on the modern day battlefield. This should be a great midweek bonus battle for you to watch, and I hope you enjoy it. And here is the other team. We have RV Earth. Several of you may well know RV Earth. Very good RTW player. I think he used to play on GameSpy in the old days there, but as you can see now, he's playing on the modern Steam server now. You can have a look at his army. Can you see he's only got 10 infantry and 6 cavalry, but let's have a look at the upgrades on that cavalry. Can you see he's got 8 upgrades? So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. That makes that cavalry extremely powerful. But it'll be interesting to see as the battle unfolds if that powerful cavalry will make up for only 10 infantry. Okay, the next teammate is RTW player Tut. Now a lot of you will know Tut, very good 31k player, and you can see that he's bought the Rome Scipio faction. Just to have he hasn't got a lot of infantry there, I've noticed, but let's have a look at the upgrades on some of that infantry. Can you see he's got 7 upgrades? So that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack, and his general's got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. I think he's got something like 12 infantry and 6 cavalry there. And their last teammate, if we can find him in the woods, is IOW Sparky. I think Sparky's in the Titans clan now, but when this battle was fought some time ago now, he was in the IOW clan. And as you can see, he has bought the Macedon faction. That's a good counter to barbarian troops. So there's the other team. Should be a great one to watch. Okay, this very, very early stage of the battle there, you can see that the ME Scipii cavalry Tut has just charged into some of Legion's units there. That was a nice surgical strategic hit there by the Scipii, enemy Scipii player there. You can see the enemy have got a lot of archers in this game, and it'll be interesting to see how well they do during the course of the battle. Right, if you notice, I've got my Britannia army over here, and they're hiding in the woods. And the reason for that is because I don't want to to get many casualties from the enemy archers there. So, as I say, this is a great thing about this map. You can play in the woods where you can hide troops, plan ambushes, etc. but also fight in the open plains if you want. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, there's a lot of enemy troops coming in, moving around to our left here. I think we've kind of gone a little bit defensive from what I can see here. We've got a lot of strong enemy cavalry. Remember that SBQR cavalry, 2 stripes, gold shield, gold attack. A lot of strong enemy cavalry there ready to attack. And we've got the Macedon troops just coming down now as well. Now remember, pike units are very good counters for barbarian troops. So that's probably why I've bought them to counter my Britannia troops, especially my chariots. As I say, I've got my troops hiding in the woods there. The only reason for that is because barbarian troops are very susceptible to archer damage or any type of missile damage. So to keep them hidden, then obviously the enemy archers can't see them. The only trouble is the general, of course, of any faction can't be hidden in the woods. So your general always sticks out a bit like a sore thumb. But the rest of your troops, my head hurlers and my chosen swordsmen, are all hidden. I've got my chariots right at the very back of the battle there. Make sure I keep them out of archer range as well, as they're very susceptible to archer damage. So, as I say, Spark has bought those Macedon troops there, I think, possibly, as I say, to be a good counter against my my barbarian Britannia faction troops there. As you can see here, Legion's got a lot of archers there. I think he's got 4 or 5 archer units. He's obviously bought those to try and cause as many casualties as he can to the Macedon faction. As we've seen before, the big 120-man units are extremely susceptible to missile fire. So that's why he's bought that many archers there, to try and weaken the Macedon units before we actually get into hand-to-hand combat. Let's say I got my chariots right at the very back here. They're fast moving chariots, so I can move them to wherever I want to on the battlefield quite fast, but keeping them out of archer range and out of harm's way at the moment is the best thing to do. And as I say, I think if I remember right, in this battle our team went a little bit defensive, and of course if you go defensive, like we've said in the other battle videos, you hand the initiative to the enemy. And we've got to kind of dance to their tune and only react to what they do. So sometimes going defensive is not a very good idea. Right, if you notice the Macedon general here, if you notice here, can you see he's bringing some of his pike units across, his 120-man pike units, and he's really stretching them, make them as wide as he possibly can. And that's so he's hoping that if I use my chariots or any of my British troops at all, I might get snagged on those pike units. So I have to be very aware of those pike units, because I know the damage they can do to my barbarian troops. If you notice, he's like kind of putting a wall of pikes over on that particular flank there. You can see Legion pulling his archers back a little bit. You can see more Macedon pikemen moving forward. But as I say, you can see that he's actually stretching those pike units out. Did you see them hiding in the woods? They're now hiding in the woods. And what I think he's thinking is, if I move any of my chariots into the woods, then I could be surprised and ambushed by those pikes. As you can see here, Tut and Earth are moving their troops forward. And all the time, Earth's archers here are shooting arrows into our moving units. Well, of course, you know that when your units move, they're very susceptible to missile damage. And that's what's been happening there. But as you can see, I think as you can see here, we are going a little bit defensive, our team. And that, of course, like I said, you can clearly see here, the enemy can move wherever they want. And we're just kind of reacting to their movement. So, as I say, usually attacking is the best tactic, but if you go defensive, you have to expect to be to kind of move to how the enemy move and only react to them. But as I say, the Macedon general here is, I notice he's manoeuvring his pikes around, trying his best to try and make life as difficult for me, especially with my chariots, as he can. So it's not a bad tactical move by the enemy team. Okay, at this stage of the battle, as we said earlier, you can see, let's just pause the game for a second, you can see that the Macedon general is making like a wall of pikes here, and he's moved over to this flank now. Do you remember he was on the other flank, and now he's moved over to this flank with his pikemen, trying to make it really difficult for me to use my chariots. And also, don't forget, mind, those pikes will kill my barbarian infantry quite quickly as well. So he's trying to kind of really restrict the use of my troops as much as he can. See how he's got his wall of pikes up there? Really trying to restrict how I can use my chariots and barbarian troops. But here in this area, that looks pretty good. That's no pikes, so maybe that might be the only place that I may be able to use my barbarian troops in safety. But that's a nice move by the Macedon player there. As I say, spreading his pikemen out like that, making it more difficult for me to use my barbarian troops. You see, I've got my troops still hiding, as I said, trying to avoid any archer damage as much as I can, and just keep them hidden until I really need to use them. And I keep my chariots right at the back of the battlefield as well, out of harm's way, just to use them when I need to. So as I say, those pike walls are going to be very difficult for me to get round, so we'll just have to see what happens as the battle unfolds. Okay, at this stage of the battle, you can see the Scipii general attacking one of Cal's units that was in Testudo. Nice little hit there by the cavalry general, and then straight into the other Brutii open order unit there, pilot shield unit. Very susceptible to cavalry hits there when you've got a unit in open order. Remember, our team are the red, the green and Britannia, and the enemy team are the purple, blue and Macedons. Okay, so our team's the green, red and Britannia, and the enemy are the purple, blue and Macedon. Okay, so just at a glance you'll be able to tell exactly what's happening there by just by the numbers, just by the colours, if you like. But as I said earlier, you can see that we have definitely gone defensive, and this of course has handed the initiative to the enemy team. They say the Macedon player, he's put his wall of pikes on both of our flanks there, as I said, to make it very difficult for me to be able to move my chariots or Britannian troops around in any of that type of area. Right, can you see the Scipii general attacking our Brutii ally, and bang, as that infantry goes in there. Nice attack there by Tut's Scipii infantry. And if you notice, Cal's moved some more infantry over there in support, but I can see some blue Scipii cavalry charging forward there, looking to probably hit Cal's engaged infantry. Let's just pause the game for a second. So you can see there's a lot of powerful cavalry on the other team, and if you notice, they've started their attack on this left flank. As I say, I've got my chariots at the rear of the battle there to be able to use when I need to. A lot of enemy infantry and cavalry probably going to move forward there. And as I say, we've got the wall of Macedon pikes over there on the right flank. And you notice those Macedon pikes are moving towards my chariots, which I'm now going to have to move out the way from those pikes there. So as I say, a lot of pressure on our team here. And as I say, because we went defensive, we now have to only react to what the enemy does. And as that Scipii cavalry hits, and bang, as that cavalry hits straight into one of Cal's engaged enemy troops, straight through that unit into some more of his units there. Nice aggressive attack there by the enemy Scipii cavalry general. He's also got infantry in there as well. Right, can you see Cal's cavalry is counter-attacking him? Bang, as that cavalry hits. Did you see that Legion 22 had his cavalry hidden in the woods? It just came out there, so that was a nice ambush tactic there with Legion's cavalry, because the enemy had no idea probably where his cavalry was. That's what I like about this map. You can hide units in the woods, spring ambushes, but also you can fight out on the big open plains if you want to. That was a nice little hit there by Legion, straight out of the woods and bang into the enemy units there. Several of Cal's units are starting to rout. Right, can you see, remember those SBQ cavalry had 8 upgrades, 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack, and they're now hitting Cal's infantry. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see now, the enemy have decided to attack. And we can, as I say, because we went defensive, we can only react to their actions. So we're just going to react to the way they're attacking. You can see a lot of enemy infantry are pouring in here along with cavalry. The Macedon pikes are over there as well. My guess is that they'll start moving forward as well there. But I must remember that using my Britannia barbarian troops, I must keep away from those pikes as much as I can, because I will suffer big casualties if I go anywhere near them. Okay, you can see the enemy really being aggressive now. That those super SBQR cavalry charging. You can see the Macedon cavalry charging in. The Macedon cavalry, really good cavalry there. And you can see that. Can you see how I'm attacking with my Britannia troops now? I've pressed war cry so that increases their attacking capability, and they're charging in. And if you notice, I'm charging my chariots, and now remember, there's no pikes in this particular area of the battlefield. The Macedon general has got his pikes on each flank, but there are no pikes here, so I can charge my barbarian army in with no worry about getting hit by pikes. If you notice, Legion is coordinating his cavalry attack with my infantry and chariot attack there. Okay, so we've got Legion's cavalry, Cal's infantry, and my Britannia infantry and chariots charging in. Do you notice that the enemy are frightened by chariots? Now, my chariots haven't even touched those troops yet, and yet they've lowered the morale of those troops, destabilizing them through lowering their morale and making them more susceptible to routing. So that's the power of chariots, not just the contact with the enemy, but the power of being able to destabilize and lower the morale of enemy troops, making them more susceptible to routing. As I say, you see Legion's cavalry really penetrating through there, that red Julii cavalry. My infantry's pouring through, my chariots are coming through as well. Cal's infantry are there, advancing as well. We're really trying to punch a hole through the centre of the enemy line here. And because there's no Macedon pikes, it doesn't bother my infantry or chariots here. I could just straight go into the enemy Roman troops in coordination with my allies there. Right, if you notice that Legion's charges cavalry through, got the full cavalry charge bonus. He's now pulling his cavalry back. Remember what we've talked about this before, he's pulling the hammer back on the rifle, and you get ready to pull the trigger. If you notice, my infantry is still advancing. I've probably had to press war cry again to enhance their attacking capability, and they're charging forward into that Scipii infantry there. I want to try and keep the momentum going of this attack. We've been reacting too much to what the enemy does. Now they need to react to what we do. Right, if you notice here, I'm charging my infantry straight into the enemy Scipii infantry there. I've got enemy SBQ infantry on my flanks, but if you notice that Cal's got his green Brutii infantry advancing as well with mine. There you go, you can see his infantry moving forward. You can see that Legion 22's infantry is fighting the enemy SBQR infantry, and the Macedon pikes are gradually moving forward towards us. But as you say, we've skillfully kept my Britannia barbarian troops away from those pikes as much as I can. I see there's a pike unit there, another pike unit there moving in, but my troops are still quite a long way away from those pikes and are just attacking the enemy Roman troops there. So remember, with barbarian troops, you press the war cry and that enhances their attack specifications, and that's exactly what I always keep an eye on. The moment war cry runs out, I press war cry again, just to keep getting those attacking advanced specifications, if you see what I mean. See how I'm really forcing those Britannia troops into those urban cohorts there. And at the moment, I've got no support from my allies at that particular part of the battlefield, but now you can see Legion charging his cavalry through. He's going through my infantry into the enemy lines, and bang, as that cavalry hits. Nice coordinated attack there by Legion with that cavalry. So my infantry and his cavalry are both smashing into that Scipii infantry that was in front of us. You see Cal's got some cavalry units there as well. His infantry are fighting some of the enemy units. If you notice, the Macedon pikemen are coming in behind us now. But if you notice that Legion charges cavalry straight through the enemy ranks, and they're now behind the engaged enemy troops. Nice little move there by Legion with his cavalry. Don't forget, all the way through this, my chariots are still lowering the morale of enemy troops, still destabilising the enemy units, making them more susceptible to routing. So that's the power of chariots, but not the ones that run amok. I'm not too keen on them, but the Britannia chariots, as I say, pound for pound, probably the best chariots in the game. Okay, now the Macedon general has seen his allies mostly routed now, and if you notice, he's trying to make like kind of a defensive formation there with his pikemen. But we need to keep pressurising. We don't want to let him, you know, make a defensive formation while we stand around. We need to keep pressurising him. Keep pressurising. As I say, the morale of Macedon's not very good, and if we keep putting a lot of pressure on those units, my guess is they'll probably chain rout. Let's say I don't mind attacking pike units from the flank or the rear with my Britannia troops, but I certainly would not want to take them head on. Barbarian troops will get kind of slaughtered if they try and take pike units head on, so I don't mind going around the side or the rear here, as you can see. So we've got Cal's green Brutii infantry, Legion 22's red Julii infantry, and my Britannia infantry all pressing in on these Macedon units. And my guess is that those units will probably start to rout soon. I've got the head herders. The head herders have been throwing their heads in all the way through this battle. Remember, those are effective against armor heads. They also lower morale of enemy troops. Couple that with the lowering the morale of the chariots, and you can see how much damage that Britannia can do. With just the fear factor that they can bring. And there you see most of the Macedon units are now routing there.
This is a great
but you see, most of that game we were defensive, having to react to the enemy team. So whether that was good tactics or not, I don't know. But we have managed just to go on and win the battle there. So first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. Really well done to IOW Sparky. Really well done to Tut, and really well done to RV Earth. Nice kills, Legion 22, 1,679. Really nice kills there. I think most of them were probably with your cavalry, so that was nice hits there. Really well done to Cal as well. He did extremely well. And Britannia, even though the kills are not very good, as I say, the fear factor that the chariots and those heads of the head herders cause to destabilise enemy units and make them more susceptible to routing. So they do more damage than what reflects in their kills, if you see what I mean. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this midweek battle. Spartan Commander saying bye for now. See you soon.